live from Studio B of our CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. You can follow me at Sean_W_Anderson. Alongside me is Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
You can follow him at Eckerwall23 as our CHGO White Sox community leader. You can follow the show at CHGO_White Sox. It is 5 o'clock somewhere. I mean, it's 3:50. So, crack them. Crack your Goose Island.
Like
Chicago's
in
beer.
Nova Scotia or Halifax.
I was thinking like
Halifax, Nova Scotia.
New York, because that's like, in our territory.
Yeah. But I think there's a territory in Canada that goes on the half hour. Like, so if it's 3:30 here, it would be like 5 there.
Ew.
It's like they don't do the thing where, we're just go by the time zones of an hour.
They're trying way too hard. And hey, shout out to everyone on the chat. We appreciate it. Fred's hanging out with us. He's celebrating the 98th loss as the Sox lose 3-0 to the Diamondbacks. They're almost there. They have to go 3-1 to avoid losing 100. I don't think that's going to happen. Shout out to Melissa. And then I don't know if we're going to celebrate 100 exactly. We're going to do a show on Sunday. I'm going to think this weekend long and hard about what this 2023 year is meant to me, and I'm gonna come back and I'll try to do 100 losses justice, which I don't even know if that even makes any sense.
It's Newfoundland that has a half hour one.
Maybe I'll go to Newfoundland.
You should.
Maybe I'll go to Newfoundland to celebrate 100 losses.
It is 5 o'clock in Newfoundland right now.
And shout out to AJ saying, how about that bullpen? Outside of Luis Patino, who is the opener for the Sox, Davy Garcia, 2 2/3, no hits, no earned runs. Johan Ramirez, 1 inning, no hits, no earned runs. Tanner Banks, 1 inning, 1 hit, no earned runs. Garrett Crochet, 1 inning, no hit, no earned runs. And then Brian Shaw, everyone's favorite, every day, Brian Shaw, 1 inning, no earned runs. So really came in and shut down those mighty D-backs after, they won the game. Yeah,
and it seems like the D-backs is like, all right, let's, Corbin, hurry up and get that double, get these runs in, because that's it. We're not, Brandon Pfaadt, whatever the hell his name is not going to give any runs up today because the White Sox, and I told people on this, these guys didn't listen to me. I know you White Sox fans understand the White Sox being bad, but at Cub fans in my mentions, I had Marlins fans in my mentions saying, can they get one? No.
Right.
They're this bad. They're the 4th worst team in baseball for a reason. And it didn't matter if Kyle Davies, who got DFA'd today, was starting pitcher yesterday, or Brandon Pfaadt, who has almost a 7 ERA. The White Sox are the White Sox. Man, it gets you right. Just like Russell Wilson this week will come in this week to get right versus the Bears. Whatever you need, you get right here. The Padres, they need to get right this weekend, even though they're out of the playoffs. Baby, the numbers are going to be solid for the Padres this weekend.
Pfaadt's a rookie, so I don't mind him coming in here and having a fine start. I mean, when you are a rookie, you're probably going to have success against better teams. And now that ERA that was over 6 is at like 5.72. So, I mean, he lowered it about like 0.3 points with his 5 2/3 of no earned run, like in 8 Ks. Like what I heard from PHNX last night was the whole thing is Davies usually pitches poorly, but gets the win.
Yeah.
And Pfaadt usually pitches well, but gets a loss. Like he's 3-9, but it does seem like they are pretty positive about Pfaadt. Again, he's a rookie. Has less than 90 innings in his career.
I was listening to Lynn and DJ coming in on ESPN 1000, and they were saying that Pfaadt has 200 strikeouts as a minor leaguer in a season, which they were like, he only pitched like 135 innings, which is very hard to do in the minors to get over 200 strikeouts. So he's going to be a guy that's going to be looking forward to the future, and a guy that we're going to be hearing from in this episode a little later is one of the guys that was his farm director, and Josh Barfield. So he knows exactly how to, what Brandon Pfaadt brings to the table, and he looked impressive today.
And we'll have some Josh Barfield audio in a sec. He'll explain his job, what his vision for the White Sox is, how he currently views this organization, and even talks about Jerry Reinstar. So thanks, Bruce Levine, for that question. Yeah. We got about 5 minutes or so from Barfield, so we'll get to that a little bit later. Vinnie Duber will be joining us from Guaranteed Rate Field. I have to talk about Andrew Benintendi because I'm allowed. There's nothing else to talk about. I am allowed. But the one thing that PHNX said was Davies was lined up to be their 162 starter. Mm-hmm. So the DFA is basically like that the season for the Diamondbacks depended on Zach Davies, and they said no fucking way. They said we will take anybody else. I mean, they might call Josh Barfield and be like, hey, you got to talk Chris Getz into dropping Brian Shaw. Like, hey, maybe he's got like an arm thing flare up, and you just want to cut him loose, and we just need somebody to throw.
Yeah,
Brian Shaw can give you an inning. Zach Davies can't give you an inning.
No, and it's sweet revenge for his former wife because that's what he did to her.
Okay,
pretty much. Hey, man, I don't like Davies. He's a trash human. You hear what he did to his wife, man?
Yeah,
just ghosted his wife and their dogs. Man, I'm glad he got DFA'd. F that dude. Feels great.
He got a job after he did that, though.
Yeah, he did.
They paid him like for a full season to be on their team.
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
But he was like, oh man, I played on this bad D-backs team last year and they sucked. Oh man, we're right here. We're about to go to the playoffs. I'm about to get another playoff share, baby. No, get your ass off the team immediately. I wish they would have did it yesterday and left his ass in Chicago, so he had to find his way home. So yeah.
Oh, to do it tomorrow?
Yeah.
Like Carlton Fiscum?
Yeah, exactly. He's like, leave your ass in Chicago. Find your way back to Arizona, brother.
Greyhound.
Deuces.
I'm not trying to be stinky, but or make excuses here, because sometimes your contact acts up. Maybe that happened to Seiya Suzuki last night.
Okay.
But my contact in my left eye has absolutely moved away from my face, and I'm supposed to be reading the screen later on. So if I am reading the things off the screen wrong,
just point it to me. I'll read it.
All right, there we go. Good. So let's get into this game.
Yeah.
What else, what do you want to say about it?
There was nothing really special about it. Like I said, the Corbin Carroll double that scored 2, great. We're done. Right. We got a double from Aloy. We got a double from Andrew Vaughn.
You want to play the music, Steven? I mean, we got the double from Andrew Vaughn. He's the king of the game. Is that something? Okay, he went 1 for 4 with 2 Ks. So
30th double of the season, though.
He had his 30th double of the season.
Man,
career high.
We are scraping for anything positive to say about this team.
You know what?
I'll say something gosh.
Positive. Andrew Vaughn hit 600 plate appearances today. He has reached a career high in plate appearances. He has reached a career high in doubles. He has reached a career high in home runs. And he has reached a career high, I assume. I don't know if that's going to hold, but he should reach a career high in slugging. So, I mean, those are positives. Like, he proved that he could play a full season. He proved that he could slug throughout an entire season, just because there was worries in 2021 with that injury in August that his power got zapped from August to September. And then we kind of saw, the gas tank run out on him in 2022. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, all of them suck.
Yes.
But, hey, at least there's a bright, silver lining?
I guess so. You can build off of this, but he's still a below average first baseman, both with the fielding and with the bat, in my estimation. I think that, of course he can get better because he's a relatively young player. I think he's still like 25, 26 years old. But, yeah, 25 years old, won't turn 26 until April 3rd. So, yeah, the power's there. You could see it from time to time that he can turn on the ball. I need him to be more selective at the pitches that he swings at, because you see so many times as a 5'10" athlete, he's going at balls that are at his face and swinging, flailing at them, and taking pitches middle. That's more of a White Sox thing, and I hope they haven't coached the aggressive nature out of him and the aggressive hitting out of him. But to only hit 20 home runs for a first baseman who played majority of the games, I think is very poor, but he's young. So he can build off of this. This year was more of a year to see if he can play first base every day and see, as you were saying, he doesn't lose any steam going down the stretch, which he hasn't. I think he's played better in the second half than he had in his first 2 years. But I think we expect a first baseman that plays as many games as he does to hit 25 home runs at minimum. And the same thing for Yohan Moncada on the other side. And so it's something for him to build on because he's still not in his prime, but I'm not saying that this year is a good year for Andrew Vaughn. I think it's just a building block year. And then if he next year becomes the player that we need him to be, because he was drafted 3rd overall, he needs to be that guy if Chris Getz and Jerry Reinsdorf are going to get their wish of not doing a rebuild next year.
Right. And AJ brings up Vaughn has always been a double line drive hitter, not asking him to hit 40, but asking him to be a little bit more like Freddie Freeman.
I got it, AJ.
Freddie Freeman-ish. not be a Miller genuine draft, but be a Miller light, I guess. Hey, drink Goose Island. Those are the first comp I had. Thank you, Steve. I fell down a hole last night.
Yep.
It was tough to get out. Thankfully, I did. And then I went on the internet and went to StatCast and was looking up quality of contact on pulled fly balls and line drives because I'm a loser. And
were you doing this because of your man Andrew Benintendi because he has none of them?
Well, I was just doing it because of Vaughn and Berger.
Okay.
And shockingly, Berger's like top 20. Shockingly, Berger does what you want in baseball. He kills the absolute hell out of the baseball, and he usually pulls the ball, which leads to home runs, slugging, etc. Andrew Vaughn's like tied with Francisco Lindor. Like they basically have the same amount of pitches and attempts, and it's like, should we just ask Andrew Vaughn to play second base?
I mean, didn't he already?
Yeah, right. I mean, maybe he's not a first baseman. Maybe he's a second baseman.
Just every ball
Middle
just goes
infielder.
right past him, unless it hits literally at him. He's just like, oh, sorry, can't hit that, can't catch that one. Sorry. Every stolen base is just successful because he can't get to second in time for the run to tag the runner out.
I saw these shoes. They're called moonwalkers, and they apparently make you walk faster. They're $1,400. It might be a great investment for second baseman Andrew Vaughn. Yeah, I mean, it feels like hell. I don't know. There's nothing really to talk about with this team. And I truly mean this. I mean, this 98th loss. Most people in the chat are saying they can't wait until hockey. 98 is Connor Bedard's number.
It is.
So, hey, shout out to Connor Bedard. He looks incredible. I have Connor Bedard thoughts if we want to get to that, but I guess we'll go to Andrew Benintendi.
Please, I love this. I love when you get on your rants and talk about Andrew Benintendi, because if you guys weren't here last year, before this free agent frenzy started last year, I was in for any left fielder, right fielder on the White Sox going to sign. Sean said, I'll take any of them except for Andrew Benintendi. He specifically said he won't take Andrew Benintendi, and he cited the reasons why. And now he's going to show you why he was right.
Thank you for setting me up, Herb. Shout out to Vinnie Duber, who got audio from Andrew Benintendi. There was also audio from Wrigley Field that I avoided not playing. I've been sitting on this for about a month just because, again, I know that I'm bitter, and I know that I've been talking about this, beating a dead horse. But I just feel like the horse should be revisited with a stick, I guess. Let's hear from Andrew Benintendi, because this was one of the most interesting quotes I've heard from a baseball player in a while, especially after he signs a $75 million contract. Don't say this before, even he didn't sign the contract and then say this, right? He was like, man, maybe I could find it. Yeah. But no, he said after August 21st, after the White Sox got absolutely destroyed by Luis Castillo, who think through 46 straight fastballs.
Yes.
This is what Andrew Benintendi said in the White Sox locker room.
I've been searching for a feel for, it seems like, since 2018. And I think that facing Castillo the other day, I felt that again. So I'm just trying to replicate that as much as possible. And hitting the ball in the air, hitting the ball harder. So I think it's trending in the right direction.
What was it about that matchup that did it for you? You think just luck of the draw finally, or?
I was getting blown away by his heaters, and I figured, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Strike out. So I might as well try something, and I ended up hitting a double. So I think that kind of clicked right there. So I don't want to jinx or anything, but just going to try to ride it out.
Is there an element of your hand feeling better or stronger that's allowing you to drive the ball as well?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I can tell. The part in my swing where my hand kind of gave up earlier in the year, it's now driving through the ball. So I mean, that's I think not a big part of it, but a part of it. Just gonna keep trying to get it better and get stronger.
Get better, get stronger. I don't want to jinx things. They signed a man who broke his hamate bone in September.
Hamate.
Thank you, Dr. Steven. And hasn't healed properly, doesn't sound like. And since he said he's been searching for a feel since 2018.
300, 400, 500. That's what I'm going to guess. 300 at batting average, 400 on base, 500 slugging. Am I right, Steven?
No.
Okay. You are absolutely incorrect. What was the big selling point of Andrew Benintendi? Outside of the professionalism, what was the big selling point?
That he gets hits?
What would signify that a player has gotten hits?
getting hits,
a high batting average, maybe.
Yeah.
His batting average since he said that, 228. He faced fastballs, and he said, he was getting blown by a fastball. He's just going to let it rip. The average velocity of the fastball that he faces is 93.4. His average exit velocity that he turns out fastballs in play, 88.1 miles per hour.
That's not good.
He takes fastballs and gives them an exit velocity that is decreased. That is not good. No. Usually what the point of hitting is to add power, is to add exit velocity, ball go far. Ball don't go far when he makes contact. And it is so upsetting to watch him play baseball. Melissa brings up the DRS, the negative DRS. Jim Margulis went into the defensive numbers on Sox Machine. He's not athletic. He's 30 years old, and they have him for 4 more years. Mm-hmm. The Texas Rangers got 14.2 B-WAR for Marcus Semien and Corey Seager this year. How much did they pay for them this year? Combined.
Probably 45 million?
61.5 million. Benintendi for the next 4 years is $66 million. So, again, it's a lot for 1 year, but the Rangers are going to the playoffs.
It's worth it.
And you spent on 2 players instead of 1.
It's worth it. Your fans are happy. You have a future. I remember, Slavko was like, Sox, you really want that? Like, yes, we want our team to actually try to get good players, and those players then eventually turn into the superstars that they've been. So, yeah, it'd be great. Go out and do that right now. Go out and get a second baseman and shortstop next year for $60 million a year. Hey, I'll be happy as fuck.
There's no one on the market. The only guy on the market's the guy on their team that you were saying does he even have a place next year. All right, Vinnie Duber's in the green room. We're gonna get to him in just a second. I'll take an ad break. Well, actually, I got more Benny numbers. Vinny, you're gonna have to wait for a second. All right, let's go to the league stuff because I don't mean to. I do mean to beat a dead horse. Let's go to the leagues first, Steven, because I put up numbers on Twitter, and they were basically just anything in the zone for Andrew Benintendi is a negative, right? There's one zone. There's 9 zones that make up the strike zone. Yeah. Upper, middle, right, top, middle, bottom, right? The only place that he has success is down and in, right? All other 8 zones are cold, and all of their run values are below negative 2.5. Like, he is trash, and I respectfully. Let's go to the league because these are balls in play inside the zone, and you could see that where hitters have the most success is down the middle,
as you're supposed to.
Down the middle, on the edges, or again, like it's basically making a cross on your screen. The deeper the red, the more success on the left. And you could see kind of, the top, bottom, top, middle, inside, middle, and then outside middle are all darker reds. And then you can see the slugging percentage right there. Again, a lot of red for balls in the zone that are put in play. But let's go to Benny. And there's still going to be red because, again, he's a professional baseball player. But you look at the left, there's one really red zone, and then everything else is really tough. I mean, balls in play up and in is a negative. When he puts the ball in play, if it's up and in, he is hurting his team. Mm-hmm. So don't hit the ball and maybe pitch to them all the time there. But the only place that he is above league average, the only zone that he's above league average in for slugging percentage is down and in, is that 471. And if you take out that series against Oakland in August, that's like below 400. I mean, he is truly been an atrocious hitter to watch. Maybe it's health related. I don't know. He doesn't sound super confident, but he also seems really excited to address it in the offseason. That's the one clip I didn't play that Vinny got from Wrigley Field. But it does seem like he is aware of the problem. He doesn't want to be a singles hitter. But again, I just don't know if he is physically capable of doing it. And I didn't really think he was physically capable of doing it last year. Yeah. And he's going to be here for 4 more years. And this is hell.
And I think the thing is, like, you as the general manager, Rick Hahn or Kenny Williams, they would have sussed this out, did some research, saw the crux of his problems and realized that he was out for the rest of the year last year with 5 home runs with the hamate problem. And he tells you that stuff at the middle of the season. Like, I'm still trying to find my swing since 2018. You should look at the numbers and say, yeah, he hasn't found his swing, and he's not the player that we need here. I would have taken Joey Gallo over him 100%. I would have taken Cody Bellinger over him, Mike Conforto. I was fine with them getting Andrew Benintendi because I was like, that's an improvement over the left fielder we had last year.
Who just became the right fielder.
Exactly. But it's not a good thing. The White Sox are still in a bad spot. With this guy, yes, he has room to grow, but also he could be this guy for 4 more years. And that's not good because we know they're not going to spend any money, and he's going to be making, what, $18 million next year?
Mm-hmm. Oof, $17.5 million for the next 3 years.
It's not good. Like this year, you could say, fine, it was only $8 million. Next year, him and Yohan, man, if they don't have any production, you're just having a huge dearth of talent and runs right there, costing you a bunch of money.
Do I want to know how
almost
much?
$40 million.
More
than $40 million for those 2 guys.
$41 million. Okay. Well, and I think their current budget right now of people who are on staff. So, yeah, Andrew Benintendi and Yohan Moncada make 33% of the White Sox budget for 2024 right now.
And we were talking about Andrew Vaughn earlier. The fact that he makes $0, makes league minimum, is a good thing. Like, he could struggle all he wants to because he's inexpensive. And he can grow into the position and be a very expensive player by becoming better just because he'll get into his prime soon.
And thank you to Vinnie Duper for waiting. Hit the thumbs up button because Vinnie has been waiting. We appreciate everyone in the chat. Thanks for letting me go on my rant about Andrew Benintendi, Herb. Let's hit the break, and we'll get into Josh Barfield in just a second. Let's talk about Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. You told Mark Carman if he's got any more scout seats. He hasn't offered any of the White Sox guys scout seats. Funny enough, hey, he's throwing them around all the CHGO offices. It's like trick or treat at Mark Carman's house with scout seats. But you said you'd be, enjoying the alcohol at the scout seats, and you'd be, taking a gummy or 2.
I would be doing it before, and having an enjoyable time in the scout seats. 4 more games to go. Give me them. I already went to Sunnyside and got the provisions.
There you go.
I just need the game.
It's your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping, a place where all kind of visitors are welcome to explore, discover, and purchase a wide array of high-quality products. And Sunnyside has everything you need to elevate your football season. No matter where you are on your cannabis journey, they have easy online ordering and in-store pickups to make it easy for you. And they're also going to reward you. They have a great transparency loyalty program, Sunnyside Rewards, so you can be rewarded for when you shop. And their bud tenders have a vast knowledge of the product that they are selling you, and they will be able to inform you on what product is best for you. They have great in-house brands like Mindy's, Good News, Cresco, High Supply, Floracal, Wonder, and Remedy. And right now through August 15th, you can head to sunnyside.shop, Sunnyside's one word, .shop, and use code CHGO25 at checkout for 25% off your total order. 1 use per customer, and it's not stackable with other promotions. That's not only for new customers. Anyone can use our code. Pick up everything you need to elevate your football season. Must be 21 plus or an Illinois MedCard holder. Again, code CHGO25 and check out for 25% off your total order, 1 use per customer. And we also want to let you know about our friends over at FOCO. Steven did a great job of decorating the set with our 2 FOCO bobbleheads. Steven said, let's make sure the ad read is focused on. You could have grabbed like 1 more bobblehead. It's a little bear here, Steven.
I think it looks good.
A ton of White Sox stuff. Yeah, well, I mean, the bobbleheads are fantastic. They're beautiful.
We've got the orange flag one. That's good.
And thank you to FOCO for donating them. Shout out to FOCO, and go check them out at FOCO.com, FOCO.com, or click the link in the description below. For all non-presale items, use the promo code CHGO for 10% off. They have everything you need, like hoodies, shoes, signs, bobbleheads, straw hats, polos, bags, checkered plaid overalls. I mean, they got everything on their site. Andrew Benintendi, Arkansas bobbleheads. I mean, come on. Go get fitted in the best sports gear around over at FOCO.com, FOCO.com, or click the link in the description below. For all non-presale items, use the promo code CHGO for 10% off. Let's head out to Guaranteed Rate Field, where our grizzled veteran beat writer, Vinnie Duber, logs another game in the 2023 White Sox schedule.
Wow, I go one morning without shaving, day game after night game, and all of a sudden I'm grizzled, huh? Man,
I honestly I didn't even notice that your 5 o'clock shadow was creeping in. How was it to meet Josh Barfield today?
what a guy! What a nice guy. Obviously, I think some older folks remember his dad playing and starring, and he did it right down the street. He's a Joliet guy. I'm not sure us younger folks were well aware of that, but he's happy to be home. He said his dad is thrilled that he gets to come back to Chicago. But yeah, a very good guy and a very good voice at the top of that White Sox front office. We'll see how it all plays out. It seems like he's going to be an assistant GM who has kind of a really wide range of responsibilities in the early going here. It's going to be player development focused a little bit more because there's a new farm director to come. That person obviously has not yet been hired. So the guy who was just the farm director with the team you have been watching the last couple of days, the Arizona Diamondbacks, is kind of going to be in charge of that a little bit, or I should say have a lot of those responsibilities. In addition to everything else he's got going on, he's going to be very involved in what goes on this winter in terms of putting a roster together and bringing new players in and all of the above. But a very nice guy. And our guy, Jesse Friedman, who covers the D-backs, texted me as soon as that news broke that Josh was joining the White Sox front office, saying, hey, what a great guy he is, and certainly that played out. So the Jesse Friedman stamp of approval becomes the Vinnie Duber stamp of approval as well, I guess, after just one little media session.
And just to add on to Jesse Barfield's career too, I also liked hearing that he made his debut at I guess Comiskey / Guaranteed Rate Field. So it goes real deep for the Barfield family for the South Side of Chicago.
And he was there during Andy Hawkins' no-hitter, which the White Sox won that game. It's subsequently, I believe, not been called a no-hitter because Andy Hawkins only pitched 8 innings. He pitched a complete game because the Yankees didn't have to pitch versus the White Sox in the 9th inning. So, yeah, Josh Barfield, I think Jesse Barfield made the error that scored the runs that the White Sox scored that game. Little White Sox lore, I believe.
91?
It was in the old ballpark, so it was either 88 or 89.
Okay.
Mailman Jack probably remembers that one.
I'll find it when we play Josh Barfield a little bit later on. Well, I guess we could just play it now, and then we'll get back to Vinnie Duber. All right, let's get into Josh, because I think we got about 5 minutes from Josh. You could hear the why he got the stamp of approval from Vinnie Duber and Jesse Friedman. He goes into what he looks in for the makeup of players and how important the makeup of players is, both physically but also as actual people. So go ahead, Steven.
We got talented players, but we also got really, really good makeup guys, high character guys. And, it's so difficult going from the time you're drafted, whether you're a high school or college player, to get into the big leagues. And, I just believe that the guys that have that high character, high makeup, really motivated, they do the best to get the best out of their abilities, and that gives them the best chance to get up here.
I know you just started a week ago or something, but what do you envision your role being? I mean, as assistant GM, what does Chris talk to you in the early stages about?
Yeah, so I think we're still kind of navigating through exactly what it's going to look like, but I think I'll probably be involved in a lot of different areas, especially early on the player development side. Just I think that's where I have the most experience and kind of bring a different perspective. Chris has done a great job on the PD side here. I kind of bring a little bit different perspective from my experiences previous, so I'll be involved in that. We'll still hire a farm director, but I'll still be heavily involved, especially early on that side, and then as we get into the off season with roster construction, player acquisition, all that, I'll be involved in that as well.
With Chris having obviously a lot of experience with this organization, it might be important to get some different perspectives from outside of this organization on that front. Early days of your tenure, obviously, but kind of what have you been able to provide, and what do you think you'll be able to provide in that realm? Yeah, I think it's just another perspective. Right? I think part of his vision was bringing in people from other places where things have gone pretty well, and between me and Gene Watson and Bannister, a lot of this first week has just kind of been downloading ideas and things that we've seen other places, things that have worked, things that maybe haven't worked, and also getting to know how things are done here. So I like the collection of ideas that we have so far, and I think we'll continue to build on that.
Josh, how do you hire the right people as instructors and coaches that can relate to the players now and how they've been brought up? How much attention do you have to pay to that now compared to maybe when your dad played and they said, well, we're hiring this guy because he played in the big leagues and he can hit
talking about that the other day. The requirements to be a coach, not only in the minor leagues but in the big leagues, it's so much greater than it was even 5-10 years ago. And the ability to connect, number one. The guys don't care about your baseball card anymore. They care about what you can provide for them, how you can help them, and they're also a lot smarter, I think, than we were. They have a lot more. There's more access to information. They're coming from programs that have labs in college. They have like really talented instructors. So there's a high bar when you get to this level. So that's something that we put a lot of thought into when we're hiring, when we're evaluating staff, is the ability to connect and your content. If you have those two things and a good work ethic, you have a chance to really impact a lot of players.
Maybe still in the process of learning a lot about what's going on here and everything, but whether it's from this first week or the years you were in Arizona, what do you make of this team? What do you make of this White Sox team?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still getting to know a lot of the staff here, the players here, but there's a lot of good pieces. There's a lot of talent here, and I think that was something else that interested me about this opportunity. You're going into a situation where you have a chance things can turn around here, and it might take a little time, but there are definitely pieces here to be a winning team. It wasn't that long ago that this team was, winning division, so we hope to turn it around, fairly quickly here.
What do you like about the idea that you have an 87-year-old owner that's interested in still participating, seeing the team rebuild again, and it's vibrant every day? Did that come to the equation here of who owns this team and where am I going to play? Going to work?
Absolutely. I think the owner can shape a lot of like the culture and the makeup of an organization, and getting to work for a guy like Jerry is really exciting. This guy cares. He wants his team to be good. He's involved. It's not just something that he's casually a part of. Like he's intimately involved in this organization, and he really wants to see it succeed. So, and he's willing to provide the resources to go out there and do that. So, yeah, that played a huge role in the decision.
I mean, Josh only spoke for 11 minutes, so I'm not sure if there's a big takeaway from any of this, but I thought there was a lot of interesting parts from what Josh said today. The first question that he was asked that I didn't include was, how'd this come about? And he was like, honestly, I was surprised. I was surprised that, I was so focused on the Diamondbacks that this would be an opportunity that came up to me, because him and Chris Getz really don't have that deep of a connection. It just seems like Chris Getz kind of noticed that, Arizona was doing well, and I think I think as Josh mentioned in the piece, taking from organizations that have had success. My mind is going to that Athletic interview though, and I keep forgetting about the guy's name because he 15 years ago, the felon.
Oh, Dave Wilder.
Dave Wilder, who was from the Braves. Again, he said he was never asked, what did you do with Atlanta? Maybe that's what Chris Getz is trying to do. Again, maybe he's trying to get those outside voices from Brian Bannister, who's going to be a part of acquisitions, who is just with the successful San Francisco team. Maybe he is going to get input from Jesse Barfield on how to turn Josh Barfield.
That's fine.
It's the two J's.
Yeah.
Hey, honestly, I'd be rooting for a George Foreman thing. He should just. I know I won't get it wrong because all of them are named George Foreman. What was the point I was making with that?
I got you, Chris
that Josh can turn some of these fringe players, these quad A guys into actual major leaguers, or at least help guys get from AA and then to AAA. I think he mentioned in the makeup, we're trying to not let guys just succeed at their own level, but understand how to succeed at the next level too. We are trying to get you to be ready for the next level, not only to have success at the level that you're at right now. So I don't know. There's a lot of interesting things from Josh, and he seems extremely qualified.
Yeah, and I think that it is smart for Chris Getz to sample around the league and find the brightest minds, young minds like Josh Barfield. I think he's only 40 himself. So to get people who have success in their roles, and he's been the farm director since 2019, you see Corbin Carroll out there. You saw Ryan Nelson last night, Perdomo, young players. The guy who was from Chicago, Alec Thomas. Like, all these players were drafted early, but also cultivated and have been developed, and now you see them in the major leagues. White Sox have drafted in the same round of those same players, but you don't see the fruits of those labors. You don't see the progression from, hey, he's a great player in college, he's a pretty good player in minor leagues, and then he comes to the major leagues and he's a fully developed star. Corbin Carroll's that. I mean, Alec Thomas a little less than that, but he goes and gets it in center field. So if Josh Barfield can bring that type of information here to the White Sox, and I know he's not the farm director here, but he'll have, and it looks like Chris Getz is going to have a collaborative effort. I know Chicago hates that, but he'll have a collaborative effort of these guys with Brian Bannister, Josh Barfield, the new scouting director, I'm losing his name, Gene Watson?
Yeah, Gene Watson.
And have these guys be input, and Chris Getz will give the final go because he is young in his job, and it's smart to think and lean on other people for information while he learns on the job. So it's a great hire. And you can say what you want about the hire, and I know people are looking at Josh Barfield and saying, hey, is that the minority hire because Chris doesn't know him? Is that the minority hire that it was reported the White Sox had to do because of overpassing any interviews except for Chris Getz for the GM job? Maybe. Possibly, but don't mistake it. Josh Barfield is more than qualified to get the job that he got right now. So I get it that people are kind of up in arms sometimes about minority hiring and talking to people who are minorities, but this is how you get it. This is how you implement it, because he was well qualified, and otherwise he wouldn't have had an opportunity to have this opportunity to have a job with the White Sox, and now he can go to the next time if he does well with the White Sox as a general manager. So this is why those type of rules exist, giving qualified people the opportunity to get in front of people and then have their jobs show what they can do. Same thing with Ozzie Guillen when he got the job back in 2004. Sorry about that.
Why are you sorry? You're fine.
I went on a little rant.
Yeah. We talk for a living. That's the whole point. Yeah, I don't know if anything else stuck out from you, Vinny. And again, I thought it was interesting that there was no real connection between Chris Getz before this hire. Or at least Josh really didn't, bring up any past history with Chris outside of them being both former players.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's probably way too much emphasis that is put on connections that people do have with each other, right? I mean, really, if you're trying to put a good organization together and a good brain trust and get different ideas in, you shouldn't limit yourself just to your friends and people you've met before, right? I mean, this is an entire industry that has a ton of qualified people in it who have had success. I think people are so quick to jump to whether it's whatever, right? Whether it's who's the next manager a team's going to hire, or hey, they should go get this free agent because he's worked with this coach before. That's too easy. That's an easy thing to look at, and sometimes it works. And hey, we had Johnny Cueto come here because he had worked with Ethan Katz, who was here because he had a relationship with Likus Giolito. Sometimes that stuff turns into a success, but it also doesn't necessarily mean it's the only thing you need to look at. And when that doesn't exist, it eliminates the possibility. And so this is a situation where a guy who you don't have to be a rocket scientist to look on the field at the Arizona Diamondbacks and see that they've got a lot of really good homegrown talent. The guy who helped steer them to the big leagues and steer them into a position where they're going to be fighting for a playoff spot would obviously be somebody that you would want to talk to. And it's so lined up that here is Josh Barfield, the assistant general manager of the Chicago White Sox, bringing in those different perspectives. I think that was my big takeaway, is that he brought that up. He said, I have different perspectives from working outside this organization. That's the thing that White Sox fans wanted more than anything when it came to the last managerial hire, when it came to the, after Rick and Kenny lost their jobs and there was going to be a new person in charge in the baseball department. They didn't get that necessarily in Chris Getz, but here's Chris Getz going outside the organization and bringing in three people who are going to be very high ranking up in the front office, in his front office, who are going to be throwing ideas at him all the time that don't have anything to do with the White Sox, right? Their history, their resumes don't have anything to do with the White Sox. So in a way, here's Chris Getz doing what White Sox fans wanted to be done in, fielding input and ideas that have been generated from outside the organization. And here's Josh Barfield bringing it up unprompted, basically, and saying, we've been spending the first week we've been here just throwing ideas at Chris Getz and talking about how we have done things at other places that have worked. It makes a lot of sense, and I think that is a positive sign if you're a White Sox fan and you wanted them to operate differently, or at least get involvement from people who have in the past operated differently, you're getting it right now. And I'm not saying you should be, over the moon 100% bought into what's going on here. We talked an awful lot yesterday about how the plan is not very clear, right? But I think that you can at least say, okay, that's them doing one thing that I wanted them to do. Let's see how that works out.
Can we take a break? Because I honestly think the plan is becoming a little bit more clear. I don't know if this is going to be a team that's going to be competitive in 2024. It seems honestly like Chris Getz has the same view of the AL Central as we do. Honestly, I think it could be any team that gets lucky can win the division in 2024. I mean, Carlos Correa and Byron Buxton basically not even played this year in 2023, and the Twins have easily won the division. I mean, if a team actually gives out solid effort and a team is healthy, I think any team could win it. I mean, the Royals can win the division next year if they're fully healthy. I wouldn't be surprised by anything. But let's take a break because I do think that there's some place where this is going or a vision that maybe Josh and Chris have kind of laid out in the next 2 days, and you guys can call me out on if I'm wrong or right. Let's take a break and let you know, though, about Shady Rays. Our friends over at Shady Rays are you covered? There it is. Take on the sun, cure built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades at an affordable price. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that offers a world-class product that's just as good as any expensive pair we've worn. They have durable frames and extremely clear optics for outdoor adventures. And that's not all. Shady Rays offers the most insane protection program in all of eyewear. Every pair of sunglasses is backed by lost and broken replacements. If you lose or break your pair, even on day one, they will send you a brand new pair. No questions asked. You can wear your Shady Rays with confidence because they have your back long after your purchase. And if you don't love your Shady Rays, you can exchange them for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back. And exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal this season. Go to shadyrays.com and use code CHGO for 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized shades. That's shadyrays.com and use code CHGO for 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized shades. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people. Also want to let you know about our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook, and this Google is giving me problems. We're back with another week of football, and DraftKings Sportsbook is keeping us in on the NFL action with great offers every single game day. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. $200 instantly in bonus bets. That's what I screwed up. Throw $5 down on any of this week's epic matchups to walk away an instant winner. Hey, maybe you want to throw some money on the Buffalo Bills and Miami Dolphins. It's a crazy week this week. A lot of tight point spreads in the NFL, and DraftKings isn't stopping there. All customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every game day this September. Football's more fun when you're in on the action, so download the app now and use code CHGO when you sign up. New customers can bet just $5 to get $200 instantly. $200 instantly in bonus bets. Gotta be clear about that. $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL with code CHGO. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. Licensee partner Golden Nugget, Lake Charles, Louisiana. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms for eligibility, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Finally, we're going to let you know about our friends over at Fubo. They have 140 live channels of sports, shows, movies, and news. You can stream live TV from any device. Who doesn't like watching the NFL? You got Bears-Broncos this Sunday. Who doesn't like watching college football? You got all those great matchups.
SC, Colorado.
SC in Colorado.
Got
and Duke, Notre Dame.
Illini, Purdue.
Illini, Purdue. You can watch that and watch the most Chicago sports for the lowest price with our friends over at Fubo TV. You can stream live TV from any device and start watching immediately with a free trial over at FuboTV.com/CHGO. There's no contract, no cable, no hassle. Just sign up and start watching. And our favorite part is 1,000 hours of cloud DVR included at no extra charge. So maybe you want to watch the SC Colorado game, but hey, maybe you record the Duke Notre Dame game. There you go, folks. You're free with Fubo TV. Watch all your favorite college football and the NFL with Fubo. Go to www.fubo.tv.com/CHGO. That's FuboTV.com/CHGO to sign up for 15% off your first month of Fubo Pro. All right. going back to Josh Barfield, the quote I liked was when Bruce asked him about coaching and saying, you're just not going to hire a past major leaguer and think he'll have success. And I immediately think of the minor league coaches that the White Sox have hired. Hey, we do see Chris Johnson, who has worked his way up as a former player. We see the White Sox hire Nicky Delmonico after he retires. We see a hire that I liked, Danny Farquhar. But also we see Wes Helms, Omar Vizquel, right? Yep. It's not always, great. And what I liked what Josh said was the requirements have changed from 5 to 10 years ago. And look what we saw in 2020, right? Don Cooper gone. We saw Frank Menachino gone a year later. It feels like the White Sox are trying to move forward with their coaching. It feels like they understand that they're very far behind, or at least they understood from a major league staff that they were far behind. And I think now that they're a little bit more caught up outside of the manager just being scared of his players, we'll get to that in a second. But I am worried at what the underbelly looks like. That minor league coaching staff might be tough at AAA, AA, single A, etc. So I do like that Josh is coming in here and saying, hey, we're going to get real coaches in here because, hey, that might help these players understand what to do.
I mean, that's one of the reasons why you don't go from being drafted right into the league, because you need the proper coaching to develop into the major league player that you're supposed to be. And we've seen that time and time again. The White Sox have failed on first rounders specifically that haven't gone from the point they were in college or high school to being a better player in the major leagues. Like, we had successes in Tim Anderson, but now where's that gone? Eloy Jimenez is not necessarily the White Sox person, but they had him in the minor leagues. He developed a little bit, but now it's not really gone to the next level. Coaching is the deciding factor, and having analytics, a research and development program that gets a player from one point to another. I like the Chris Johnson hire because of what we said last year, where you brought up the fact that he's telling players of, not just digestible MLB stuff, but he's bringing analytics into there and putting them in ways that they can digest them as Major League Baseball players. So I think that hire is still good, but there's a lot of those like Delmonicos and Farquhars and, hey, you were loyal to the team, here's a job type of thing. I don't know how good Justin Jershely is, but also another hire from, he didn't play for the White Sox, but, he's a former player, and they thought he was a bright mind, but that AAA team is doing nothing. It's terrible. So I'm liking Josh Barfield saying some shakeups have to happen. We have to have teachers down there, not just players who are placeholders and players that are saying the same things without the development of the players that are going to our major leagues, because we see 0 of them. They're all on the field today. So I would like the shakeup. I like to have that old guard out, the loyalty program to be dismissed, and just have, accountability and have a meritocracy as far as the coaches and also the players.
Well, I don't think he's going to come in here as an assistant GM and say, we're cleaning house in the minor league coaching staff. I think the thing he was talking about was more generally speaking in terms of qualities that you look for. And perhaps he will be part of the assessment with Chris Getz and everybody else. Of course, Chris was just the head of player development. He should know what all these guys are like and are doing. But perhaps these new ideas get infused in here, and there are changes made or additions made that fit that bill a little bit more. I think fans want to see a blanket approach that hits the things that they want. What is this team going to do to make all these players good? At the end of the day, and Josh brought this up, the answer is you better be doing what is good for each individual player. And I think, we've seen that at the big league level with coaching. We've seen it at the minor league level with guys with different timelines in terms of how much minor league time they need versus another player. It's all different. And the ability that you need as a coach or a player development person or a front office person or whatever is to understand that each of those players needs something different or at least something specific to them. And if you are able to communicate to the guy who wants all the information in the world as well as the guy who gets completely confused if you give him any of it, that's a good job. It's not doing one of those things right. It's not trying to please a certain segment of the fan base that wants to see one thing. It's being able to do many things and get everybody to the same end point. Now, have the White Sox been able to do that? Absolutely not. You're looking at a team that has a core that has almost completely, with the exception of Luis Robert Jr., failed to live up to the expectations that this organization had for them. Obviously, they need to be doing things in a different way. And if new front office people are going to spur on changes at the coaching level to do that, then great, or if they see the current coaches they're working with doing exactly what they want them to do and the players aren't holding up their end of the bargain, then maybe there'll be personnel changes in that area as well. You've got a front office guy in Brian Bannister now who's going to be working with pitchers up and down the organization. It really just, I think the main thing that fans should want is the end result. And Herb, you always talk about process over results, but there's maybe no one definition of what that process should be for every player, right? I think each individual player has a different process to get them to the same result. And I think a good organization and a good staff is one that is able to completely adapt themselves to each individual player and each individual plan that might need to be followed along.
Yeah, and honestly, when I was talking about, what's the underbelly of the coaching staff, like I thought probably more additions is what I would be thinking, just adding more qualified coaches to deal with, more players needing, more certain help, right? I mean, if you have 26 guys on a roster, 5 coaches might not do it. More players might need personal time, et cetera. You might need, more instructors, et cetera. Like, I think the White Sox could do well with hiring more people. Let's create more jobs.
Yeah, and I hear you, but also where's the line where you're having too many chefs, in the kitchen, where you're just having way too many things in one person's ear? Like, God, I'm getting 7 different people telling me different things.
Yeah, but
that's what I mean. But that's what I mean, Herb, right, is that there are players out there who that is a worry, and then there are players out there who want that. And I think you as an organization have to be able to throw a different strategy at all 26 different guys on a big league roster, at all however many dozen, 100 guys in an organization. And if you're able to do that, if you have the the personnel and the resources to help each one of those guys in the specific way that they need to be helped in order to get them success, that's when you're in a good spot.
But also, like, if Jesse I'm going to keep doing this. God damn it. If Josh has a plan for each specific player, the message or the process shouldn't change and the instructions shouldn't be different. I mean, like, I don't understand where the too many cooks things would get, convoluted, because like it should just be the same message.
It should be
from every coach.
Yeah, I understand what Vinnie's saying, and I agree, because it's just like some players don't want to be inundated with information. I think Luis Robert spoke to that earlier in the year. He just like, I'm thinking about all this stuff. No, get out of here. I'm gonna do me. Some players like, give me all the information so I can absorb it and then have a better thing at the plate and or the mound. So, yes, as Vinnie said, you have to find the balance and find out if this guy is that guy that wants all the information or if this guy just wants instruction from one person and that's the straight line he's going to be moving on for. And you have to find that throughout the system. And so it's going to be hard. And I agree with you. You have to hire more people, and it's better to hire more people than fewer. But you have to find out if those guys who are in the system actually like the more information, and if they don't.
Right. There's a point that you brought up there, but I forgot about it. Okay. All right. I forgot about it. Let's go.
Come back to it.
I don't think I will.
Okay.
To be honest.
I also love Chi-Town real estate, and you're beautiful also.
Yeah. Just spread the great message to spread around. All right. There was one thing that's jumped out to me last night on Twitter, and I wanted to bring it to you, Vinny, because it kind of happened in last night's game when we really focused more on Chris Getz, and I'm not sure what the message is after another loss, 98 losses on the year, 3-0 loss today. But before Pedro was hired, and this is all from Jim Margulis's Twitter, and you can follow him at Sox Machine. Pedro said before he was hired, "This is an extremely talented ball club, and it was really difficult club to prepare for because if the energy was high, they could beat anybody in the game. And if the energy wasn't, we were able to have some success against them. My job and my staff's job is going to make sure that that energy is high every night and we're prepared to win a ball game." And on August 20th, after the game, he said, "There's energy, and at times we lose it. And when we get back, it just comes and goes in the game. And that's really unacceptable. We need to bring it every day, every single inning. We'll talk about that, and we'll move on to tomorrow. And then yesterday, after the White Sox take a 4-1 lead, the White Sox gave up 14 unanswered runs, which is not acceptable to Pedro Grifol, as Scott Merkin writes. And the quote from Pedro, early on, it wasn't at all, but once you get behind and the game kind of gets out of hand, that happens. You still have to respect the game and go out there and do your job. That's what expected. And Jim comments, the White Sox should have called up Colas to give Grifol a guy he feels comfortable actually managing. I thought that was a curious comment, just because we do or have seen so many comments from Pedro about Colas to you guys. And we really haven't seen any direct comments, or at least I am unaware of any direct comments outside of that, maybe except for the Luis Robert incident near the end of April, where there was the weird, maybe he wasn't hustling, maybe he was injured, but they took him out. They had a talk. He didn't play that Sunday. And then ever since that moment, he's been God. So what do you make of maybe Pedro feeling a little bit uncomfortable in his first year, managing and maybe being vocal with some of these players like Tim, Eloy, etc.?
Well, I think that just because he's not saying it to us doesn't mean he's not saying it. I think that's the first thing you got to think about. I think he made some comments earlier in the season that were very forceful in saying, I'm not going to communicate with my players through the media, kind of thing, right? And so I think rather than using what he would say about Oscar Colas as a template, I think maybe you could view that as the exception. Here's a young guy who's not doing anything close to what the team wants him to do on the field, and he's telling us about it. Whereas the rule or the template is, I'm not going to call out people who aren't doing anything. Also, I do think, though, that in baseball in general, Pedro's been around the game for a long time. We can talk about him as a first-year manager, but he's not a first-year person in a dugout or a clubhouse. There is respect for guys who have done this job and done it well in the past. And I mean being a professional baseball player. People look at Tim Anderson, for example, as not doing the things that they expect him to do. Fans look at him as or us as well. Hey, he doesn't seem to be doing his job the way he has done it before, right? In the baseball people, though, and you can hear this in what Chris Getz even said yesterday in talking about TA's future with this team, potentially, talking about a guy who has done it before, a guy who's won a batting title, a guy who had years of success, a guy who has contributed to this team in a big way, a guy who's been to a couple of all-star games. He's got himself a resume, and he's got himself cred, for lack of a better word, right? And so I think that there are guys who don't even have the lengthy resume that Tim might have, the accomplishments that Tim might have, who fit into that category as well. People, you mentioned guys like Moncada and Eloy, maybe, those guys have had some small taste of big league success. There might be a level of respect in, hey, they've done this before. They know how to do it, right? I mean, the idea being that if you've gotten to a point where you're having success at the major league level, obviously you know how to have success at the major league level. So just do that. I'm not going to treat you like a child who doesn't know what they're doing. You know what to do, go do it, kind of thing. And like I said, just because he's not saying that in a post-game press conference to us doesn't mean it's not being said at all. I don't know if it is or not. I'm just putting that out there, give a guy a benefit of a doubt. I know this has been a topic of conversation for fans all year long, particularly as the Oscar Colas stuff got very repetitive. I mean, I was pointing it out on this show. He said it over and over and over again. But also, too, watch the game. Oscar Colas was making mistakes every single night. And so, they sent him down because he was not coming close to what he needed to do to be successful at this level. Now, there's the opposite end of the spectrum is everybody gets yelled at every night because this is going to be a 100-loss team. You know what I mean? And do you want, I think the bigger problem isn't how the manager is talking about it. It's why in God's name is this team played like this year? And, you left out the part of the quote that you just read from last night, I asked the question, he's talked about focus and effort so much at this late stage of the year. Is it a challenge to muster that? And his response was, it shouldn't be. That was his response. So, I mean, he's a guy who wants to see a very specific brand of baseball on a nightly basis. And that, I think, is what he was talking about when he had that opening press conference that everybody loved. He painted his vision for what this team was going to be. And then he started doing the job of managing a baseball team on a nightly basis when the games count. And that team didn't do it. And he failed to find a way to get them to do it, right? I mean, you can talk about everything that has gone wrong for this team this year. As the manager and as the head of a coaching staff, we've said it over and over again. They have failed dramatically, Pedro and this coaching staff, to do what they were hired to do and to do what they said they were going to do when they were hired. So he's getting another year to try to fix that. I would not be surprised, you see, if you see him very much try to get this team to play the way that he wanted it to, and maybe that involves personnel changes that Chris and the front office are going to be making. But I don't think the focus should necessarily be on how he's talking about it. The focus should be on how did it get to the point where he has to talk about it every night.
This is the thing, Vinny. And before I get on to my statement, did Pedro, specify why Tim sat out today?
He said he was asked whether these were just regular days off for Tim and Yohan, and he said, yes, I'm going to rest those guys from time to time. There's only 5 games left when he said that, so I don't know really what that meant, but that's what he said.
And they had an off day on Monday.
That's the point. And then we all saw Tim do what he did last night, and he can think that isn't a focus issue, but when you do it multiple times where you don't have your foot on second base as a shortstop, when you're receiving a throw from the second baseman, that's a focus / energy / effort thing. And for him, and I don't need him to say it to you guys to say, hey, that man was loafing, blah, blah, blah. But I need the accountability of him, and the same thing with the hits principle with Matt Eberflus. When you're saying you need to have all this hustle and all this heart and energy, and then when you see a person loafing and or not having focus, i.e. Chase Claypool, and the opportunity to send a message throughout the rest of the ball club and say, that's not acceptable, for that, you will be sitting down or you will get fewer opportunities to play. That's what I'm saying with Tim. This was a perfect opportunity to say, you know what? Tim didn't bring the level of focus and energy to what we need to do here at the White Sox, and so that's why he's sitting down. To sit him down with 5 days to go in the season to get rest is ludicrous to me, absolutely ludicrous. And so that's why I push back against Pedro and him saying focus, energy, because he was brought here for that reason. And if they're not listening to you in year 1, guess what they're not going to do in year 2? Listen to you. And you have to establish right now that you're the goddamn boss. You might be making less than them, and you might want to treat them like veterans and, hey, you're established, you've been in the league, you know what to do. But you also, Pedro Grifol, saw these same players give lack of effort, lack of energy when you were in the clubhouse with the Kansas City Royals. So what's going to change? It's got to be you setting the standard to know that this is how White Sox baseball is going for the future. And I don't care if you're man number 1 or 26, you're going to play White Sox baseball with energy and effort. It can be bad, but you're going to be given 100% of what you got. And so that's why I push back on what Pedro says, because he doesn't follow through with his words through actions.
Well, I love the statement, and I honestly think that the action will be the decision of Tim's option. Like, I think that's going to be how he kind of sends his message, will just be, we don't think that you're going to give the effort to our team in 2024. Yeah. And, maybe that's through the conversation that Tim and Chris Getz talked about that Tim and him are going to have, and that he thinks Tim is deserved. But, he might go for a player that is not trying and might be more talented, as we've pointed out, former All-Star batting title, for a guy that is less talented but might give that effort. And that's what my biggest worry is like let's go for the players that are good at baseball and maybe get a manager that they want to play for.
I will say this. I believe it was on the last homestand. I asked Pedro about TA's focus and energy, right? Because so many folks have called that into question, we'll say, and Pedro was adamant in saying that those have not been problems for TA this season from his view. He has pointed out the things that have been, right? The health, particularly, with that very obviously had an effect on how he played throughout the first half plus of the season, and then obviously the other stuff that he's been dealing with, and then the results, what the results are, that is frustrating as well. But just to provide more information there, so we're not ascribing thoughts to people that aren't thinking those things. That's what he said in terms of. That's what he gave me the answer as in terms of TA when it came to focus and energy. He said that is not a problem. Talked up TA's work ethic and what he does, before the game in terms of what he's doing to practice to try to turn things around for him from a results standpoint.
And I can't trust Pedro's eyes. His baseball eyes are failing him. I'm as big a TA fan as you can find. I will go down defending that man over most people on that team. But I've seen it. The lack of effort, energy, it's been present every other game. This is not, unless he thinks that Tim is just a bad player, he has been dogging it for a couple of these games. And if Pedro doesn't see that, then his eyes are wrong. And his baseball knowledge is, I'm going to question, because it's sometimes you got to call out the number one guy so all the rest of the guys get in line. And the fact that he doesn't have the bravery to do that, to me, or if he sees nothing wrong, then he's the wrong guy. If he doesn't have the bravery to step up to Tim and say this is wrong, then he's the wrong guy. Either way, he needs to be the leader. He was hired to be the leader. And like I said, the most important job for a manager is in the clubhouse, not in the field. The field, the game will take care of itself for the most part. In the clubhouse, you got to address these things, and squash beefs and get these players ready to play. And if Tim's not giving effort, that's my opinion, he hasn't given effort and energy and focus all year long. So this is why I think Pedro is just lost. And I hope in the offseason he feels a little bit more comfortable calling out players and telling them this is the effort, energy that we need. And if you're not giving me this, in my second year, I feel more empowered to give you this message. I hope he finds that in the offseason because it hasn't happened this year except for Colas.
I think one thing, too, that maybe leans a little bit towards injury, but it just seems like he's just out of the game, is he was so into base running in the first 11 games, 5 stolen bases, no caught stealing, and then the 109 games since then, 8 stolen bases, 2 caught stealing. I mean, he's basically just stopped running once he's gotten on base. I don't know if that's just because of the lack of opportunities, too, because he was getting on base more in those first 11 games, so maybe there was more opportunity. But it just doesn't seem like he is an interested part of the White Sox, and it does seem like he's trying to get through this season. And, hey, maybe it's just been a tough season. Maybe you just need to put it behind you, and maybe he can say he's on to 2024 and will be more focused, and they'll accept that option. But I have a lot of just concerns around if TA even wants to be a White Sox anymore, because it does not seem like he is playing like it, or at least is giving that effort on a day-to-day basis. And I would agree with you that I think Pedro's just lying to himself. Like, who are you crapping? I mean, honestly.
In his heart of hearts, he knows it.
Yeah. And again, like Vinnie said earlier, he doesn't want to deal with this stuff in the media, right? I mean, maybe he's having these conversations with Tim.
I hope so.
Behind closed doors.
I hope so.
And again, that's something that we are not privy to. To be a fly on the wall. Anyways, Vinnie, any notes from Guaranteed Rate Field, or you want to wrap this up by 5?
You can wrap it right up because
Okay.
this was another game from Dullsville. I mean, especially from the White Sox end. I mean, you mentioned last night, 15-4. Tonight, 3-0. I mean, the pitching was pretty good. They only gave up 4 hits, but where are the bats? Where are the runs? So they need to go 3-1 over the final 4 games to avoid that not so magic number of 100 losses.
Will they? Will they go 3-1, Vinnie?
I don't think so. No.
I don't think so either. Herb?
I mean, they'll lose tomorrow, so they got to sweep the Padres, which
right.
I don't believe so either.
Well, there you go. Well, you're going to sweep the Padres, folks. Go check out Vinnie Duber's latest piece at allchgo.com, writing about what Chris Getz had to say in the dugout yesterday, covering those 22 minutes and covering Tim Anderson's future with the White Sox as well. So it is timely, especially with the topic that we just talked about. So go check that out at allchgo.com. He's our CHGO White Sox beat writer Vinnie Duber from Guaranteed Rate Field. That's Herb Lawrence. You can follow him at Ecknerwall23. He's our CHGO White Sox community leader. And I'm Sean Anderson. You can follow me at Sean_W_Anderson. Thank you to Stephen Nicholas for producing the show. Thank you to everyone for hanging out with us in the chat. Hit the thumbs up button on your way out. Goodbye.